CLI and a cross-platform IDE for C and C++. Download now.
Tonight I want to talk to you about the U word. What is the U word, you say? Well, I'm not sure exactly. To me, it sounds like it's a swear word because it's kind of a word that I would expect people to bring up sometime in conversations, especially around conferences, especially about tech conferences with engineers. But for some reason, it never comes up. And I kept thinking, especially since the last year, like, why is it not coming up? And my first guess was like, oh, maybe it's because, I'm not a native French speaker. Maybe it has a double meaning, or maybe it's one of those words that like Americans think is very offensive, but English people say all the time or something like that. I wasn't sure about it. But then I thought about it. It's like, yeah, it doesn't even make sense, right? Because like it's the U word in English, but it's the S word in French. So it can't be the language barrier, but there's something else to it. To give you more of an idea of where I'm going through. The last time I had this thought was last year. The great keynote from Björn, my co-Stockholmer, as I call him, from Stockholm. Yes, he had this great talk about learning. He's teaching, he's sharing about the need to learn lessons. Explained as like through the metaphor of piloting, especially like pilot programs in Sweden. It's a really great talk. If you haven't seen it, you should definitely watch it. But there was a bit at the end that kind of like. Didn't rub me well. He's mentioning a really tough topic, which is toxicity in the workplace, or just difficulty at work. Well, like what happens when you try to raise something and then you're not being heard? What can you do? Of course, he said if you're respected, just use your voice, and then hopefully things will change. But then he said, if you're not, then try to find someone who will. And if it doesn't happen, well, I guess just leave. This is your only two options. And that's where I was like, you should have mentioned the U word, but he didn't. And then earlier today, some people were talking about technical debt, and since Kevin is probably somewhere in the room, I have to say unmanaged technical debt, or technical neglect, if you prefer, which is kind of the thing that also upsets us engineers. And usually when there's a talk about technical debt or technical neglect, or even like software capital, some people will raise their hand at the end. You can find a talk somewhere, I will not tell you where a guy who sounds suspiciously like me is asking, but what if I tried and nobody listened, and nobody cares about technical debt in my company? What can I do? Me, a sole, lonely engineer, right? But what if I'm not the only one to think about it? And that's weird, right? Like, of course, if I'm alone, like maybe nobody will listen to me. It's just me and my manager. I'm easy to ignore, right? But like, what if all the engineers in the company, all the people of the craftsmen of a given profession decided to speak with one voice, right? It's called cloudy because a pack of cats is a clouder. Thank you for the lesson, by the way, internet. Yeah, why would they do not that, right? Are you guessing what the U word is now, right? It's a union. Thank you very much. Or a syndicat if you're French. So I try to think, why are we not talking about this, right? So it's tough. The obvious option by Wikipedia is because, that's communism, and we don't talk about that. Turns out I'm a history nerd, and guess what? There were like union strikes way before communism was invented, because, that stuff is from 1848. You can find some in like the very early 10 years of the United States. You can, Hammurabi has a code that says, hey, people of this guild should be paid that much for their work. In England, the great people of England decided after the Black Plague that they should force people to not be able to negotiate their wage because too many workers had died of the Black Plague, and they thought it was unfair that they could say, well, it's the starve demand, so I can set my price. And that's why it was banned for like, 400 years. Amazing. But then I live in Sweden, and I'm like, okay, maybe it's because I live in Sweden. Sweden is different, right? Because Sweden has like 69% unionization rate, which is very nice, when you think about it. Sorry for that young people joke. But and then my cat sitter sent me pictures of my cats this morning, and I could clearly see that the country is not on fire, and it seems to be working. So maybe there's something else. And I would like anybody to just come and talk to me and tell me, why are we not talking about this? Because I've been a union rep for 7 years now, and it's not perfect, but we do salary negotiation, we do legal counsel, we do management consultation, company board representation, all the kind of stuff that, if there's a problem in the company, maybe all the profession should be able to speak with one voice. So what's the real reason, right? Well, we all know the real reason, right? It's because unions are unsafe and you should use variance, right? It's very obvious. And I was supposed to end on this slide. But then this guy just walked up to me, saw my last slide, and immediately said, no, I never use variance, that sucks, I keep using unions. So, he was more than a hero to me now. He was a union man. Thank you, Jonathan. You're a real hero to the people. That was a joke.